country and the planet is owned and run by people who don't deserve to. They do it in the name of profit, they do it in the name of privilege.
Rage Against the Machine wasn't just a band, they were a force of nature. Their roar shook the walls of injustice, loud and relentless.
As you have people in the Supreme Court who remain to try to pass their quote-unquote morality over the masses. I think it's wrong. And whether anyone agrees with abortion or not, it's wrong.
They refused to back down. Critics tried to tear them apart, but their fans held firm, loyal to the very end. Their story is raw, messy, and full of shockwaves that still echo today. Y'all, let's talk about this band that wasn't just a band, rather they were a battle cry. Born in the chaos of early 90s Los Angeles, they exploded onto the scene with fury, fire, and a mission to shake the system to its core. With their no-holds-barred mix of rap, metal, and raw rebellion, they weren't just making music, they were starting a movement.
Waking up to the long legacy of brutality of American history and subjugating the world's population has been something we wanted to challenge.
Fronted by the razor-sharp vocals of Zach De La Rocha, born on January 12, 1970, backed by the ferocious riffs of guitar wizard Tom Morello, born on May 30th, 1964, thunderous bass from Tim Comerford, born on February 26, 1968, and the relentless drive of drummer Brad Wilk, born on September 5th, 1967, this wasn't your average alt-rock band. This was a revolution.
I was listening to a little bit of jazz. I was listening to Charlie Parker at a very young age, and I was just drawn to it.
Their journey began with a self-released 12-song demo in 1992. It didn't just get attention, it detonated. Epic Records came calling, and by the end of that same year, their self-titled debut album dropped like a bomb. From the first blast of Killing in the Name, it was clear this band was here to fight. That song, a scorched earth takedown of police brutality. And it was only the beginning. Rage Against the Machine didn't just scream into microphones, they screamed for justice. As their fame grew, so did their fire. They threw their weight behind causes that most celebrities wouldn't dare touch, rallying for death row inmate and former Black Panther Mumia Abu-Jamal, demanding freedom for Native American activist Leonard Peltier, and shining a blistering light on the horrors faced by sweatshop workers across the globe.
Sense of frustration and alienation I experienced growing up in a very conservative community, very racist.
By 1996, Evil Empire stormed onto the scene, debuting at #1 on the Billboard charts. It was loud, it was unapologetic, it was war in musical form. Then came the Battle of Los Angeles in 1999, an album that didn't just chart, it carved its fury into rock history. But Rage was never content to stay confined within studio walls. In the summer of 2000, the band took their message to the streets, staging a defiant concert outside the Democratic National Convention. What followed? Chaos. A riot broke out. Cops clashed with fans, and the system they raged against once again showed its teeth. Just weeks later, the unthinkable happened. Zach De La Rocha, voice of the resistance, walked away. He called it quits, and Rage, as fans knew it, was silenced. Renegades, their final album, dropped after his exit. A defiant farewell packed with covers of legends like Bob Dylan and the Rolling Stones. One last punch before the curtain fell. The rest of the band regrouped, channeling their sound into a new beast, Audioslave, with Soundgarden's Chris Cornell on vocals. They found success once more, but for those who lived through the fire and fury of Rage Against the Machine, nothing would ever hit quite the same. In 2007, the impossible happened. Rage Against the Machine reunited.
I mean, the good news is that Rage Against the Machine, came back between 2007 and 2011, and we were 15 days away from, our...
After years of silence, the band that once ignited a generation with righteous fury stepped back into the spotlight. And they didn't come quietly. By 2008, they were back on the front lines, this time performing just steps away from the Republican National Convention. It wasn't just a concert, It was a statement, a middle finger to the establishment. Rage was raging again.
That we've reunited and are reuniting again, and especially I think the world needs.
Though they never officially broke up, their last performance came in 2011, and then silence. But silence wasn't surrender. In 2016, the heartbeat of Rage, Morello, Comerford, and Wilk linked up with Chuck D of Public Enemy, Be Real of Cypress Hill, and DJ Lord. Together, they formed Prophets of Rage, a new force built for protest.
A very meaningful solo career, which has been completely fulfilling. Now, those opportunities were allowed to happen because bands come and go.
And fittingly, their debut? A searing live set outside the Republican National Convention in Cleveland. Their first album dropped the following year, loud, political, defiant. Rage Against the Machine had evolved. The mission remained the same. On July 9, 2022, after more than a decade of silence from going on concerts, Rage Against the Machine roared back to life. The stage was set at Alpine Valley Music Theater in East Troy, Wisconsin, where the band launched their first concert in 11 years. But just days later, tragedy struck. During a high-octane show in Chicago, frontman Zach De La Rocha ruptured his Achilles tendon. The injury wasn't just painful, it was catastrophic. The band was forced to cancel the rest of their North American dates, and their European tour was scrapped entirely. Just like that, the long-awaited comeback faded into silence once again. Rage had been knocking on the doors of rock immortality for years. They were nominated for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2017, 2018, 2019, and again in 2021. But it wasn't until November 3rd, 2023, that the moment finally came. Ice-T inducted them at Brooklyn's Barclays Center, but in a twist no one saw coming, only Tom Morello showed up.
To all the musicians and change makers who helped shape the band's collective vision. Rage has also been fortunate to have so many talented co-workers and co-conspirators who have believed in the band.
Then came the final blow. On January 3rd, 2024, drummer Brad Wilk confirmed the worst. Rage Against the Machine had disbanded. Again, this time it sounded permanent. Now let's talk about awards, because Rage Against the Machine didn't just make noise, they made history. With 6 Grammy nominations and 2 wins under their belt, the band carved their message deep into the industry's golden walls. In 2005, VH1 placed them at number 33 on its list of the 100 greatest artists of hard rock, a nod to their ferocity, their impact, and their legacy. Then came 2008. Kerrang inducted them into their Hall of Fame. 2 years later, NME handed them the Heroes of the Year award, solidifying their place not just in music, but in movement. Sure, the MTV Video Music Awards nominated them 3 times and never gave them a win, but for Rage, the stage was always more important than the statue. Rage didn't just earn awards, they took over the narrative. And in doing so, they rewrote what a band could be. Now let's pull back the curtain and look at the lives behind the Fury, starting with the enigmatic frontman, Zach De La Rocha. Born in Long Beach, California, Zach was raised at the crossroad of art and activism. His father was a Mexican-American muralist, his mother of German-Irish descent, a background that set the stage for a life of rebellion. Growing up in the mostly white suburb of Irvine, Zach battled racism and identity crises that would later fuel his explosive lyrics.
SB 1070 is signed. It will sow the seed for racism and hate, for injustice and social unrest.
A committed vegetarian and straight edge, Zach has always walked the walk, eschewing drugs, alcohol, and fame itself. Fiercely private, his long-term relationship with artist Carolina Sarmiento was one of the few glimpses fans ever got into his personal world. Today, Zach De La Rocha is 55 years old and worth $25 million. Then there's Tim Comerford, the band's thunderous heartbeat. He married his longtime partner Elise Demas in 2001, and they had 2 sons, but their marriage didn't survive the years. In 2018, they announced their divorce, and 5 years later, it was finalized. Tim's beliefs are as fierce as his baselines. A self-proclaimed conspiracy theorist, he once confronted astronaut Buzz Aldrin at a movie premiere, insisting the moon landing was staged. But the most jarring twist came in 2022. Comerford revealed he'd been diagnosed with prostate cancer earlier that year. He underwent surgery just before going back on tour with Rage, never skipping a beat. Today, at 57, he stands with a $20 million fortune and the scars to prove it. Next up is Tom Morello, the man with the guitar that could roar like thunder and whisper like revolution. Tom Morello's life offstage holds its own quiet intensity. He and his wife Denise share 2 sons, a family anchored in love amid the chaos of fame. Raised Catholic, Morello made a conscious choice to live vegetarian, reflecting a discipline that echoes in both his music and personal life. He calls Laurel Canyon Los Angeles, a place known for its creative energy and history. Loyal to the core, Morello is a devoted fan of the Chicago Cubs and the Los Angeles Rams, a passion so deep he named his second son Roman after the Rams' legendary quarterback Roman Gabriel. He's now 60, sitting on a net worth of $40 million. A musical genius, a political firebrand, and still an icon in his own right. And last but definitely not least, Brad Wilk. Diagnosed with type 1 diabetes in 1997, Wilk didn't back down. He turned his diagnosis into a mission, raising thousands for diabetes awareness, and even developing a sugar-free lemonade called Olade, which earned FDA approval in 2009. Resilient and relentless, Wilk's fight extended beyond music. He married Selena Vigil, and together they had 2 children, but in 2013, that chapter closed with divorce papers. Still, Wilk stands tall. Now 56, with a net worth of $20 million, he's not just surviving, he's thriving. Rage Against the Machine wasn't just a band. They were a rebellion, a cultural detonation. They gave us anthems that roared against injustice and stood for something raw, real, and rare. No band can replace them, and maybe no band ever should.